Welcome back, Refuge Church. And guys, we are two lessons away from the end. Today and one more. That means next week will be the end of Revelation, and we have made it all the way through section by section. We had to skip over a couple because I wanted to get done before we went to camp. We had to skip over a couple of parts, but if you guys are following along, feel free, obviously, to read the parts that we did not get to dig into and just kind of meditate on those and see what's going on and the visions that John sees and the extravagant things that happen. And so we have come to the point where last week we met three unholy characters. We called them the Unholy Trinity. It was the dragon, the beast, and the second beast. And the dragon was Satan. And let's just write this out so that we can have this. The dragon was Satan. The first beast was Rome. Was the great city in absolute rebellion against God and calling itself God, saying, "Hey, worship me." So calling the people of the world to worship itself. So Rome in the worst sense of the word and the meaning. So then the second beast, that was the religious system surrounding Rome. And so like that those who were in Rome could take part in the temple activities and worship the rulers and worship other gods and especially worship the rulers of Rome. And so this was in a sense taking the mark of the beast according to John. And so we said that last week we have the possibility of taking part in being marked by the mark of the beast. And so we have to have wisdom right now, even today, even before the very end of the very end times. We have to be careful today to not take that mark. And essentially we must run to the arms of God and worship him as the one true God rather than worshiping anybody else as God, especially men, right? We don't worship anyone else, but we especially don't worship men because they are created by God and they're not God. And so there's this religious system that is supporting the worship and pointing everyone to worship these rulers. And so, man, this whole system is crazy, and it's all kind of orchestrated by Satan. And so it's very evil. But today we're going to dig even more into what this beast is and kind of the worldwide impact that this beast has. So let's read in chapter 17. We'll be in 17, 18, and 19 today as we dig in even more into the kind of the evil that John is showing us in these visions. Let's start in chapter 17, verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery. Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Okay, so John's going to dive deeper in to show us exactly what this beast is. And he's saying, okay, this beast is a scarlet beast. And there's this woman who's riding on this beast, and this woman is a prostitute, and the woman has on her forehead Babylon the Great. Okay, so here's the big picture that John's showing us is what we said before with Rome, and now he's calling them he's calling this kind of picture um, Babylon. Okay, what's the difference between Rome and Babylon? Why Babylon? Why say the word Babylon? Why call this woman Babylon? Well, the picture here is that this city is just like Babylon. In John's day, the city is Rome. It's a different city, it's Rome. But he's calling it Babylon. Why? Okay, so what's the significance of Babylon? So in the Old Testament, Babylon was kind of this great city, this powerful city, this luxurious city that completely rebels against God, and not only that, sets up idolatry against God, and sets up goes into Israel and just takes over and takes the people into captivity and kind of ransacks the temple and just desecrates the temple and just blasphemes the name of God in the very worst of ways, and takes, like I said, takes Israel back into captivity and commits all kinds of treasonous acts against Yahweh and all these abominable things that they do. And so in the mind of a Jew and in the mind of the Christians back then in the days when the Bible was being written in the New Testament, that in their mind, Babylon is just this great, horribly rebellious city. And so if you call any city Babylon, that's just a really bad thing, okay? So he's looking at Rome and calling Rome Babylon. He said, this is Babylon, the mother of prostitutes and earth's abominations. So, city in great rebellion against God is kind of the gist of it. Complete rebellion. And so John's saying, man, Rome is the intensification and the culmination of Babylon. It's Babylon at its worst, is what Rome is. And so why call this city? This city is a prostitute. Why call this city a prostitute? Well, think about it. Whenever God dealt with Israel back in the day, when they were unfaithful to him and they would turn away from him and they would enter into the idolatries of the nations around them and they'd commit abominable acts with the surrounding nations, God called them idolatrous and prostitutes, and he said, you're running away from me like a prostitute. You should be coming to me, and you should be mine, and I should be yours, but you're running away from me. You're breaking like a marital covenant with me, as if you're a prostitute going and prostituting yourself to other men. So this isn't an actual person here. Once again, this is not a literal single woman. This is the idea of what this city represents. This city is a prostitute. And so committing abominable acts and idolatries against Yahweh, the one true God. Okay, I can't spell apparently. Again, I know that's how you spell against. Okay, it'll go away sometime. Anyway, so to call a city a prostitute is a really like firm and strong way of saying, man, you guys are so evil that you're all going astray and falling into idolatry, and you're not worshiping the true God, and God sees that, and that is incredibly unholy in his sight, and incredibly unrighteous in his sight, and unjust in his sight. He sees it, he knows it, he's going to deal with it. You don't want to be called, your city should not be called a prostitute. You don't want that to happen, okay? So here's kind of the setup scene that happens with this woman riding on on the beast, on this, this beast that represents Rome, right? So she's riding on this beast. So the setup is this, that there are, and I want to read all this. I really do. I want to read every single verse, but I'll just kind of give you the details in summary. So what this represents, according to John in the next paragraphs, is that the woman represents the city, the beast is kind of the entity that also represents the city, and the kings that are within that city. The kings are rising up in the city, and there are multiple kings, so they are probably one after another. Like here's one king, and the empire stays together, and that one dies, and then the other one comes up, and that one dies, the other comes up, and that one dies, and all the while through all these kings, they're completely idolatrous and completely rebellious, and they're hand in hand with Satan to try to destroy the people of God. Remember, keep that in your mind in the background the whole time. This city is completely wanting to destroy the people of God, and so it's a great city though. Like it's got all the stuff that you would want. It's got all the luxuries and all the riches and all the lavish and comfortable lifestyle that you would want. It delivers on that, and it's giving its people, its inhabitants, exactly what they want. And this is a great city in human terms. Okay. Also, along with this city, John says there are 10 kings. Now, 10 is a special number that's used for like completeness or fullness, okay? So all of the earth is what this means. All of the kingdoms of the earth and all the kings of the earth, they look at this city rising up in its greatness and its power and its luxury, and it says, I want that. Every kingdom of the whole world does this. They say, I want that. I want what he's got. I want to do what he's doing. I want to make agreements with him. I want my military to line up with his military. I want to do shipping and receive ship goods and receive goods from this. Like I want to connect with this city in any way that I can. Any kind of agreements I can make with it. And guys, we've got stuff like this today. Like that's not abnormal now. We've got global economy stuff going on, right? So we've got even like the U.S. today. They're shipping out goods and they're receiving goods from all over the world, and we're making military agreements everywhere, and so there's already this kind of worldwide global connection that we have in place. What this is saying here is that now it's all the focus is going to shift towards this new Babylon or this new Rome, whatever the city is. It's going to rise up in great power, and all of the kingdoms of the world are going to attach itself to that. It's going to take the lead of this one city so that these other kingdoms can become rich. These other kingdoms can become luxurious and have the power and everything that this city has. These kingdoms are going to try to get that as well by connecting themselves to this one great city. So let's write this down. The 10 kings, all the kingdoms of the world give themselves, attach themselves to the beast. Man, this is incredible. Let me move myself over here. So all the kingdoms of the world are going to attach themselves to this beast in some way. Now, I know a lot of times when this gets brought up, a lot of people will think of this like new world order or this one world government kind of thing where one government just kind of rule them all. Well, the way he talks about it, it's not really like that. It's more like, okay, these kingdoms want what this one kingdom has, so we're going to do everything we can to benefit from this great city. And so it's not like one true government. There's still going to be multiple governments worldwide in every single nation. It's just that these nations are going to want to connect with each other on a deep level so that they can benefit from each other's economy and benefit just from probably each other's military, everything, all the power and the money and the riches. They're going to try to benefit from each other by connecting to this one city that's rising up in great power. So it's going to have this beast who's hand in hand with Satan is going to have worldwide impact. This city is going to have worldwide impact, and all of the other kingdoms of the world are now going to enter into this mark of the beast kind of living where, okay, hey, we're gods. All of us, we're gods. And this kingdom's like, hey, we're gods. And this kingdom's like, hey, no, we're gods. And so everyone's going to be wanting the people to worship them and wanting the people to worship the rulers of this great city, and it's going to work. Like, people are going to be deceived. That's the whole point of the mark of the beast, is that they get deceived and they start worshiping the rulers of the governments. So here is John's call for endurance, church. If we are the church, if we have true eyes that see, if the Spirit is enlightening our hearts to the truth of God's grace and His glory and His goodness, and that He's the one true God, and Jesus co-eternal with Him, the one true God, right? Then we will see straight through this. God will give us the eyes to see this beast rising up and people flocking to it to worship it, and then the kingdoms of the world also worshiping their governments, and maybe all of the kingdoms of the world trying to worship this one big government as well. So when you start seeing that, when you start seeing governments requiring people to worship their rulers, when you start seeing kingdoms or rulers or leaders saying, I'm the King of Kings, or I'm the Savior, or I'm the Lord, all these kind of words that get thrown around, like back in their day, it was Caesar is Lord. You take that pinch of salt and you throw it in the incense. You say Caesar is Lord, and that's how you would take the mark of the beast. Essentially, when we start seeing these kinds of things, church, that's where our alarm goes off. Say, hey, I've read this in Revelation. This is taking the mark of the beast. I must be marked by God. I must run into the arms of God. He will keep me and He will keep my faith. Okay. Whew. So it's very dire, very dire. I want to go on, but I need to dig in just one more thing. Remember what happened to those who did not take the mark of the beast? I'm not sure if we actually mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it here. Those who are Christians who do not take the mark of the beast, they are banned from the economy. Like, they're not able to buy food and buy clothing anymore in the normal everyday economy. So think about this. The entire world is becoming this thing that connects to and attaches itself to this great city that is working with Satan to try to kill and destroy Christianity. And they eventually say, okay, if you don't do things our way, if you do things Christ's way, then you can no longer buy goods from us, and you can no longer buy food and clothing from us, and you can't take part in our economy anymore. It's just one giant way that they will try to destroy the people of God. So I say that to say this, like right now, it might be very easy for you and I to be Christians. And I would say it's very easy as far as like persecution wise. We don't really come up against persecution here. Now, there are many people around the world that do, but it's going to be a worldwide phenomenon that persecution is going to be so intense, we won't be even able to buy food or anything that has to do with the economy. We will probably be losing our jobs. We'll probably be starving unless we go underground and, I don't know, make our own food somehow. It's going to be an intense time, and we have to be ready now, church. We have to be ready now. Because it's not just going to be, oh yeah, I've heard of that happening in this other country. It's going to be right here, right now, with people that you know, and it's going to affect you if you claim Christ. All right, chapter 18. What happens in chapter 18? We're about to wrap this up. Something's going to happen in chapter 18. I'm going to read first, probably 3 verses. It says this. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was made bright with his glory. And he called out with a mighty voice, Check this out. Check what happens. Fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all the nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living. And so he says, okay, this city is going to implode on itself. This whole system, the city and all the kings of the world, this whole system that was created worldwide is going to implode. It's not going to work out. They're actually going to turn against each other, and they're going to end up hating this city. And so what's really crazy about chapter 18 is that as this city is falling and it's just kind of imploding, and God is actually destroying it, is bringing his judgment on it, all the kingdoms of the earth that were once in agreements and once had accords with this city and making money off this city, they're looking at the city and they're mourning. But do you know why they're mourning? They're not mourning because they're so sad that this city is gone. They're mourning because they can't get rich anymore off of this city. So this just goes to show just the evil of this system that was set in place and worldwide, was that it was so evil that even whenever they were trying to partner with each other, it was never really a true partnership. It was just, I want to make as much money off of you as I can. That's what this whole thing was about. I want to get as luxurious as I can, get as much riches as I can, get as much comforts as I can, and no matter what happens. And now that their main source of all that is gone, they're mourning because they know it's gone for them too. They're no longer going to be as rich as they were. And so it's this crazy scene of the city is falling and everyone around them is like, man, but this is the end of us as well. We're never going to be as rich. And it's just crazy to see how it all unfolds and how it all implodes on itself. We'll end with this, chapter 19. And then, like I said, guys, next week we'll be ending the book of Revelation, chapters 20, 21, and 22. Here's what happens after the great city rises up in power and everyone attaches to it, and then it falls down and everyone is no longer rich off of this city anymore. And because God brought the judgment, right? Here's what happens. Once again, loud shouts of worship breaks out for God, who has defeated this worldwide immoral system of evil. Here it is, chapter 19, verse 1. After this, I heard what seemed to be the loud voice of a great multitude in heaven, crying out, Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and power belong to our God, for his judgments are true and just. For he has judged the great prostitute who corrupted the earth with her immorality and has avenged on her the blood of his servants. And so God now has brought justice and brought his judgment onto the great city, and he has destroyed it. And it's no longer affecting this worldwide system of government and riches and economy. It is destroyed, and the people rejoice, and everyone in heaven rejoices. So that's what we have to look forward to. He will keep you, and he will guard you from the mark of the beast, and he will judge the great city and destroy the worldwide immoral system of evil. That's what our God will do. See you guys next week for our final few chapters. Bye.